Good morning, Rabbi Sai. It's morning in Eretz Yisrael. That's what we're saying. Good morning. I have the tremendous zechus of being live in Chicago. Beautiful turnout. We have more than 20 people. It's tremendous, tremendous. Yesterday, in case I didn't explain myself, I was in the 5 towns. We had close to 100 people. Tremendous Kiddush Hashem. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, in the middle of the day, and people were at work, and they were able to come out. So, tremendous Hakar Satayv to all the New Yorkers and Rabbi Ralbag for giving us the shul. Tremendous Hakar Satayv, tremendous Kiddush Hashem. Give me a lot of chizuk. Today's shir Le'ilu Nishmas Imi Moirasi Rusbas Mordechai, and we have a number of sponsors here by Chaim, lezuchus Yitzchak Aaron. Ben Rייזיל Zlata and Shidduch for Gittel Bas Rochel. Lilu Nishmas Nissim ben Yosef Avrohom on his first Yahrzeit by his sons Yeshua and Yoel. By Michal Ringelheim. All right, Refuah Shelaima for MDY Family Members. Yisrael Shloime Elio ben Basya and his selfless son Yonasim ben Yamin ben Golda. Don't know what's going on over there. We also have, there was a terrible accident today. I believe somebody was killed in the accident. And Yossi Dahari and Yisrael Goldstein are sponsoring for Refuah Shelaima for Rus Soroh. Bas Chana was in the accident. And Yosef Avrohom ben Rus Soroh were in terrible accident today. Eric Austin. This is Jonathan Austin's father and Jonathan's brother. I forgot his name. Morris Austin, Moshe Yitzchak ben Eliyahu Kohen on his 14th Yahrzeit may be Melitz Yosef for our entire family. Jonathan and his brother are tremendous participants in the shir, and we really hope that Eric will be a real participant in the shir as well. The sponsor HaChodesh is Michael Benmeleh in memory of his mother Devora Faige shmuel and father-in-law Menachem Mendel ben Elchanan, and in merit to make it to Uman for hashana this year. Okay, so Rabbi Sai. My complaints to Reb Eli by Ethan Leichter. Dear Reb Eli, how can I put into a few words my anger and frustration with you? So I'll say a few. When COVID started, we were all locked down. I couldn't wait to get back to my normal Daf Yomi schedule until I found your shir due to my brother-in-law and brother. Now I have no reason to wake up at 5 a.m. In truth, I listened to yours at 5 a.m. My son who's 4 has been woken up by good morning Rabbi say, numerous times. And now he says it every morning, video attached. It was cute the first 100 times. Number 3, this is my second cycle and felt a little frustration, hoping it's not early onset of dementia when learning the Gemara again and not remembering the daf from last cycle. Until you reiterated a few times, you remember nothing. Kind of made me happy and sad, but at the same time, a strong desire to keep learning. 4th, the shalom bias. I'm now thinking of quitting my job, moving to Israel, and learning. If Rebelli can do it, why can't I? 100%. I agree with that line. I have many more complaints, but I believe you may not read this, so why continue? But I truly thank you. A wonderful share, the clarity, the jokes, enthusiasm. I feel like a buddy of all the guys, even though we've never met, hopefully one day. But again, I thank you. My family thanks you. Ethan Leichter. Received numerous emails today. Numerous. Which one should we read here? Rebelli, I'm staying with your Geshmak Ashir. You care about learning, you care about your Chavrusas and Talmidim, that counts. And then he goes on to a bunch of different Leitzonos. Who was that? I forgot his name already. Chanan Belsky. Shout out to Newman. Oh, here, this one. Stepner. Dear Rebelli, over the years, I've been yearning to open and learn from the Gemara. We all know there are sparks of godliness in everything in this world, and it's our job to raise those sparks and turn them into bonfires. That's exactly what you did for me with the Gemara. I think that free Gemara he's talking about. Hope to see the Rebbe in person. Thank you, all the best. Jack Stepner. More? Oh yeah, you know him? My wife overheard. Listen to this one. Do we have coffee here, David? Garnished. What's wrong with you? My wife overheard you reading email. I don't need it. I'm saying for the oilam. My wife overheard you reading emails at the beginning of this year and encouraged me to write. At the beginning of the pandemic lockdown in March 2020, my wife and I took our young daughter and fled our tiny apartment in Brooklyn to stay with my parents in rural New Jersey, where there are more cows than people. We gave up our lease in New York, not realizing how long this would last. We spent the past year and change stuck here in Eretz Tzal Maves, V'oyev B'li Mayim. Only now we begun to travel for Shabbos, 1 hour drive in both directions. I kept up with the daf for this whole year and a half. Unbelievable. Yashir has been the only reminder that I have not been learning alone this entire year and that I'm sitting down with thousands of people all over the world to learn the daf. I want to extend my sincere thanks to you and the whole MDY community for this priceless lifeline. While stuck here, we were blessed with a baby boy, writing from the borough of Franklin, New Jersey, Henach Banas. If you happen to read this and somebody says he's been or he knows where Franklin, New Jersey is, I assure you they're thinking of the wrong one. All right, Rabbi Isai. Today, I actually moved into a new home. And if anybody knows what it is to move, it's not that pashut. Well, for me, it was not that hard. I had Benzi Friedman, not my brother-in-law. People mistake. My partner, who's here in the room. Benzi Friedman, get over here! He's not going to come. Try to get him here. But it's a big, it's a tirda. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there are no excuses. I asked a few people in Chicago, coming this year? No, I have to babysit. I have a toothache. I have a this. All the excuses in the world. But there are no excuses, Rabbi Isai. All we're saying is learn for 40 minutes a day. What's the big deal? Why do we have to come up with excuses? Every day it's another zach. I also have excuses. There's Tisha B'Av, and then I had to fly, and a jet lag, and moving to a new house. No excuses. Got to learn Torah. So here we are in Chicago, Illinois. Rabbi Isai, let me tell you what a kind of hick town this place is. I showed up here yesterday, and asked my wife, did you rent a car? She goes, yeah. Here are the keys. I go outside, I don't see the car. There's a pickup truck. She rented a pickup truck. I'm driving around in a pickup truck. You chop what's going on here? That's where we came to. This is Chicago, Rabbi Isai. The women here rent pickup trucks. All right. Zok the Gemara. So yesterday we had amazing sugyas of different types of schach, and a person had a board that was 4 tfachim wide, 3 tfachim thick, and he flips it on the side. Rav Huna says it's no good. It's only 3 tfachim. Rav Huna says the whole schach is non-kosher schach. It's as if you're being misachach with metal. So the Gemara says, perhaps we have a raya where on Daf Yudalad Amud Beis, maybe like 10 rows from the bottom, 10 lines from the bottom. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. I have a right to Rav Huna. If the sukkah is so small, it's less than 7 tfachim, it can't contain most of his body and his head and a small table. It has a breach. We're going to have it, I think, tomorrow in the Mishnah. But this is a brisa. You know, in those days they had goats roaming. Today we have little cats, dogs. An animal can get through the bottom, a skunk. So that's neged to us. There's a piece of wood, a plank of wood that's 4 tfachim wide. So how is it, I'm asking you a question. It's a riddle. How is it that I have a plank of wood that's 4 tfachim wide, but I only put in 3 tfachim into the sukkah? So the Gemara understands that the riddle is very simple. Here's 4 tfachim, and I go like this, now it's 3 tfachim. That's what the Gemara understood. And it says, Shloisha tfachim psula. So it's a raya to Rav Huna. Even if I take this puzzle schach, if it lays flat, it's puzzle. If I flip it on its side, it should be kosher. Rav Huna says it's puzzle. Here it says it's puzzle. It says, no, you didn't understand. There's another answer to the riddle. Isn't it the case that it was 4 and he flipped it to the side, to the width, and therefore you have 3? He took the 4, he only had 3 walls to the sukkah. Oh, we have a beautiful picture. He took the plank of wood. Here it is. Here's the plank of wood at the opening of the sukkah. And instead of putting all 4 tefachim inside the sukkah, you try to get away with it and make it kosher. By putting 3 inside the sukkah, 1 is hanging over to the outside of the sukkah. What should the halacha be? The halacha should be that it's kosher schach. Why? Because it's only 3 tefachim in the sukkah. Well, there comes the halacha that says that it's possible. There are others that learn in Rashi. It's not negate to the pshat so much. Sukkah like this, tinier sukkah, fine. Why is it possible? There's 3 inside, and 1 tefach is to the outside. Because we had the halacha already. Remember this halacha? If you have a sukkah, kosher sukkah, and the schach just keeps on going, and you have like 1 wall running down the length with the schach, that's a kosher sukkah. You could sit in the part that doesn't have 3 walls because it's an extension to the sukkah. So too says the Gemara, this plank of wood, even though 1 tefach is outside, it's possible because that 1 tefach is an extension to the 3 tefachim inside, and it comes out that you have a plank of wood that's 4 tefachim inside your sukkah. So therefore, it's possible. And now we got to Daf Tesvav Amud Aleph. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mamish loves me. With all the moving, with all the mishigas and the new traveling and everything, we got a really, really simple daf today, Baruch Hashem. Slightly more than an Amud. L'chaim. Says the Heilige Mishnah, the official Mishnah is sponsored by Fishel. Tikro she'ein oleo ma'aziva. You have a roof. In those days, they weren't mamish out of it. I said yesterday, they didn't have tar, they didn't have shingles. They had what it's called a maziva. It's a layer of lime or whatever it is, some sort of material. Now, of course, that material is possible for a sukkah. You have all these nisarim, these planks of wood, prior to the final step of a maziva, of whatever it is, a layer of something. Now, is this possible for a sukkah? So there's a couple of problems here. Problem number 1, we have tasav eliminasir. It's a house. It was never made for a sukkah. Now you want to flip it into a sukkah, you can't just flip something into a sukkah. Problem number 2 is that's made out of boards. Boards have a psul, like we learned yesterday. Depends according to who, depends how wide they are. A typical house, the boards are 4 tefachim, more than 4 tefachim. So if this is a house, these boards, we have to assume that they're more than 4 tefachim. Are more than 4 tefachim kosher or not kosher? According to Rabbi Yehuda, in Rav, 1 shita, Rav, according to Rabbi Yehuda, more than 4 tefachim are kosher. That's what we said yesterday. Says the Mishnah, Tikra she'ein oleo ma'aziva. Now it's interesting. I saw in the Sfarim, I'm not kidding, not my sefer. Something the few days ago I was saying about my Sfarim. I saw in the Chassidish Sfarim, and I was making not a joke, but I didn't want to say it's my own Torah. This is really I saw in the Sfarim. She'ein oleo ma'aziva, they say, means something that you hold on to. Yisrael b'tach b'Hashem. You're b'teich on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're not b'teich on other people. Ma'aziva is a lashon of something that flees. You don't take it with you. A sukkah that has a ma'aziva that you have to hold on to it is not kosher. What's kosher? Something that remains forever. What remains forever? Bitachon. I was talking, and I mentioned this before, but I got to say this again because it was mamish just a few days ago on Tisha B'Av. Dr. Epstein in Eretz Yisrael sponsored the shir Lili Nishmat with his wife Rita. They're a couple in their 60s, father-in-law of Avi Kamiansky. He only has 1 daughter, Rachel Kamiansky. So Avi lives 1 building over. He lives in my building, 2 floors below me. See the couple. They're always smiling, the nicest people in the world. If you get to know the nicest people in the world. And after she's nifter, one day, it was just maybe a few months ago, Dr. Epstein told me he's coming to Chicago. They're from Chicago. And they would live in Eretz Yisrael for a few months a year, and then in Chicago. Dr. Epstein from Skokie. You know him. Yeah, radiologist. He's okay. So he told me he's going to Chicago. I said, for what? Now, after his wife was nifter, he decided just to stay in Eretz Yisrael. Most of the year was in Chicago, Eretz Yisrael. I said, "Where do you go back to Chicago?" He says, "Well, I have a house there." And he started to describe. His wife loved cooking, so they made a gorgeous kitchen with all the chef appliances and everything. And they have a Stein piano. What is it called? Steinway. And a this and a that, and all the gorgeous furniture and everything. I said, "So what are you going to make a lift and bring?" He says, "No, nothing fits in my apartment. You can't put a Steinway grand piano in the middle of a living room dining room that's 10 feet by 10 feet. It doesn't work. So what are you doing with this stuff?" "I'm going to go and I'm going to give it away and I'm going to sell it and I'm going to give it to tzedakah." And it hit me. It was so strong. He didn't realize what he was saying to me. It's like a whole life of accumulating narishkeiten, furniture, and gashmias, and a beautiful piano. He loves playing piano, and he plays piano now on a little keyboard. And for what? It's all going bye-bye. Because when you go, it's guaranteed, we're all going to go. And there's no room in the grave for the baby grand and the this and the that. How many storage things do we have? Like 7 massive storage things. That's of shtusim. Half of them are now, take it here, put it there, and that's, nothing's coming to Eretz Yisrael with me either. I mean, just the svarim and a few things. It's meshuga. And that's what he said. He's giving it all away. It's nothing. Ein aleh ma'aziva. You can't grab onto it. There's nothing to hold on to. It's finished. Shalom Yisrael. All right. Says the Gemara. He was telling me, it's not a Maisa, but he was telling me Musar. It was unbelievable. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Beis Shammai Omer, mepakpek v'noitel achas mebintayim. So, according to Rabbi Yehuda and Beis Shammai, this is the Tikkur Shein Olam Aziva. Okay, we're done with that. There's 2 things going on here, says Beis Shammai. Say Beis Shammai. First of all, mepakpek. You have to remove all the screws and all the nails and lift up the wood. So what are you doing by doing that? You're getting rid of the problem of tasav aleim and asli. You already have a sukkah that's puzzle. You cannot go into a sukkah that's puzzle. It has to be created for a sukkah. So by you removing all the screws and everything, you are redoing the sukkah. It's as if you're making the sukkah right now. The second thing is that you have nisarim. So it says v'noitel achas mivintayim. You remove one of the boards between each board. One board, yeah, one board not. One board, yeah, one board not. And you fill it up with schach. So we're going to see exactly in the Gemara, do you need both? Is it only one? Beis Hillel say you do one or the other. You don't need both. We're going to see if that's true, if there's some sort of machlokes here. Now, we're not going to go into it to confuse everybody. Are we talking about a sukkah that is all this next to the wall? It's within 4 amas of the wall, so we can use the doiv and akuma. Or maybe you don't need to come onto that, because if you don't have four amas of no good, so it's not a problem. Okay. Rabbi Meir Omer, but Rabbi Meir argues on Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda has a great raya over here. Look, you can use boards that are more than 4 tfachim. Because this house, typically, as Rashi points out, like I said before, most houses, they're more than 4 tfachim. And Beis Shammai says it's not a problem. You could use a board here, then you put schach, another board. So these boards are okay. Says Rabbi Meir, not a good raya. Rabbi Meir oimen noitel achas mimitayim ve'eino mifak. Okay, so let's see what exactly is going on here. Says the Gemara. If the whole problem is just the fact, Marty, I can't have any talking. I can't concentrate. If Beis Hillel, Rabbi Isai, when I was here last time in Chicago, I couldn't give shir live, and I'm trying it again. We'll see if certain individuals could keep it quiet. Baruch Hashem, the olam is pretty good for the most part. If the whole problem is that there's a house here and you cannot flip a house into a sukkah without taking action, so it makes sense. So that's why we still say you can do one or two things. You do pickbook. What's pickbook again? Removing the boards. That's it. Or, or removing every other board. But that's a true maisa. You change something in the sukkah. But Beishamai, what's going on with Beishamai? Beishamai say you need two things. Why? Why do you have to do pickbook and remove one board? If the whole problem is one of them is enough. Either remove one board, every other board, or lift up every piece of wood. And if the problem is because we're concerned that you might tomorrow go into a house that has a real roof, if you remove every other board, that should be enough. Says Gemara, no, the whole problem is not Tasav Limanos. The whole problem is Gzeres Tikro. This is what Beishamai meant to say. Beishamai meant to say, even if you removed every board, you still have to come on to one important thing, and that is remove every other board. It's not enough to remove the nails and lift it up. You have to remove every other board. Why? Because of Gzeres Tikra. We don't want you to confuse it. If you have a nice flat ceiling made out of big planks of wood, next time you're not going to remember and you're going to use your regular house or whatever it is. That's a tikra, and that's usr. Why is that usr to use a tikra? Because the Torah says, go out of your house, go into the sukkah. You must remove every other board. As the Gemara Yahrzeit Seifa. Then what's going on with Remeir? Isn't that exactly what Remeir says? Remeir had a Beishamai. They're saying the exact same thing. Remeir meant to say as follows: there is no machlokes between Beishamai and Beisil b'davar zeh. So, in other words, pickbook, Remeir says, doesn't work. And what you made a mistake, Rabbi Yehuda. You think that pickbook works, lifting up a board, taking out nails. No. Beishamai and Beisil both hold that you must remove every other board. Says Gemara, Maika Mashmalon, the Remeir Islik Zeretz Tikra of Review, the Leslik Zeretz Tikra. What's this whole Mishnah basically telling us? Remeir is going to hold, we have a problem with a Tikra, and Review says there's no problem with Tikra. No, that's what we learned yesterday, Naf Yudalit. This nan, Misakha bin Asarim, the Review, the Remeir Iser. That's exactly what we learned yesterday. That was the whole machlokes. Are we concerned of a Tikra, not concerned with the Tikra? So why are we repeating the machlokes? Omar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Reisha ben Esarim Meshupin Askinon. Oh, we have smooth pieces of wood. That's what yesterday's Mishnah was talking about. That's what Gemara wants to say now. And if you look at the picture, very nice job. What do you see in the picture? I don't know if you could see, but they're very small pieces of wood. In other words, they're less than 4 tefachim. We're not talking about the giant wood. And what's the problem here? This is what we call in halacha pshuta kliyates. It's a flat piece of wood. A flat piece of wood is not mekabel tuma. So then what's the problem? The problem is a gzeira. Gzeira. You hear, you give. Now I'm just smiling. When he was a bacher, how old were you? When you used to hang out with me? 14? 15? Yeah, go way back. Okay, so this is a gzeira of a kli. I'm concerned that if you use these nice smooth pieces of wood, I guess every one of these, it's not as smooth as what we have today. Every piece of wood in Home Depot is smoother than this. But okay, you might come to use a kli. Even though this is pshuta kliyate, it's flat, it's not makabel tuma, flat, but you might come to use a piece of wood that is makabel tuma, so we're geyser. That's what the Gemara says over here. Gzeira. Umeshum gzeras kalim naguba, just because of gzeira. So, and this Mishnah right over here, Daf Tezvav, is talking about pieces of wood, planks of wood that are 4 tefachim. Yesterday's Mishnah, less. That's a Hava Mina. Says the Gemara, I don't like that. Why? Because we know, in another case that we learned already, that we're not so concerned about Gzeras. What's the case that we're not concerned about Gzera? Rav Yudah Amar Rav, the Amar Succah b'chitzim zecharim kshera, b'nekeva is psula. You have the arrows. Remember? The pieces of wood without the arrowhead. There's two types. One is a zachar, one is a nekeva. One has a base kibble, that you put the metal into it. That is a real kli. It's a piece of wood that has a kli, because it has a base kibble, it has a receptacle. And the other one is a zachar. Oh, this is a good prop. Here you see. This is a piece of wood. There's a piece of wood that has a base kibble. It has a hole in the front, you can put an arrow in it. That's an akeva, this is possible for schach. But if it doesn't have a base kibble, it's like this. So it's kosher l'schach. So the Gemara said, maybe I should have a mina, I should take all the scharim and make them possible for schach, because you might mistake them for the nekevos. And we said, we're not concerned. That's not a gzera. We shouldn't do it. So how come over here we're doing it? You have pieces of flat wood that are smooth. You say, oh, they should all be possible because maybe one day you're going to use wood that's a kli. It's the same thing. Succah b'chitzim zecharim kshera b'nekevos psula. But the gazer zecharim atu nekevos. Hachanami like nigzers in the sar meshubim atu kelim. So over here also we shouldn't be geyser. So the Gemara says you're right. So let's take back that answer. Both of the Mishnayos, the one that we learned yesterday, the one that we learned today, is the same problem, the same machlokes. Are we concerned that you're going to sit in a sukkah that's a tikra, that's a house? So then why do they have to argue twice about the same idea? Says the Gemara, Seifa, our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehudi, the call Mar Leila Rabbi Meir, because over here Rabbi Yehudi is trying to make another point in the same machlokes. Why are you so concerned about perhaps somebody's going to sit in his house on Sukkahs and use his house as a Sukkah? Bishamai is the one that holds like that, and not Beis Hillel, and we pass like Beis Hillel. Meir, on that Meir can even say, it's not true. Everybody agrees that's a problem. Explains the Gemara. Rabbi Sai, we're coming up to a Mishnah. You could all wake up. It's going to be a brand new Masechta in just 2 minutes. Says the Gemara, remember Rav from yesterday who says that there's a machlokes when the plank of wood is 4 tefachim. The Rabbi Yehuda says more than 4 is kosher. How you doing, Rabbi Steinberg? Got it. The Rabbi Meir is like Zeres Tikra. Rabbi Yehuda less like Zeres Tikra. Okay, everything makes sense according to Rav. But according to Shmuel, says no. Above 4 tefachim, everybody agrees it's possible. The whole machlokes is when it's less than 4. Our Mishnah is talking about a regular house. And a regular house, you see, regular house, these planks of wood are more than 4 tefachim. So if they're more than 4 tefachim, what's machlokes? This is the Gemara, an amazing thing. This is mamish gonna spin your head around. Why? Says the Gemara, bibitule tikra komifligi. We're talking about a house, yes, this house, and there's a reason to believe that this house is more kosher than you making a sukkah from scratch out of white pieces of wood. Could anybody guess why? Try to come up with a svara. Why is a house better than Home Depot wood that's more than 4 tefachim wide? Think. No, I'm waiting. So it's terrible. Why is it better? I'm telling you it's better. A house that's a dir askeva is better. Oh, so shot is like this. When a guy gets onto his roof with the hammer, like he's doing right here, and he starts taking plank by plank out, and he starts What is he showing? He's showing that he's very, very aware of this problem of Gzeras Tikra, and he's going to do something about it. So if he's doing something about it, then we're not concerned about this guy he might next year stay in a house that he didn't move the planks of wood. Here he is, he's on the roof, changing around every single plank. So he's a Baal Halacha, he's Makbid on Halacha, he knows what he's doing, he knows the problem, and he's correcting the problem. So this house, in a way, is better than a guy that just puts down wide pieces of wood, says the Gemara. Amazing chiddush. You never think it. It's mamish counterintuitive. That what? Bibitule tikr komivligi. He's canceling his own house. Marsav ar botla bachi. So Rabbi Yehuda says just moving around the boards, pickbook, is enough. Umar savar bahachi loy batla. And he says it's not enough. Okay, that is the machlokes. We're holding by a brand new Mishnah, and I'm serious about this. Shas is a Ferris wheel. Wherever you get on, that's where you get off. But every day is a new sugya, and every day you could start from fresh. If you missed yesterday's daf, here it is. It's a brand new Mishnah that has nothing to do with what we learned before, and if we could pretend it's a brand new Masechta. Right there. New Masechta, Sukkah daf Tesvav Amud Aleph. Sponsored. The official Mishnah is sponsored by Fishel. Hamakores Sukkah Bashpudim Oy Barukas Hamita. So if you used for Schach something that's puzzle, metal that's Mekabel Tumah, rods of metal, spits, or Arukas Hamita. What's amazing is that because we were moving today, we had a lot of Arukas Hamita. I was very, very tempted on bringing Arukas Hamita to share. But I'm like, I have a pickup truck. You're going to just throw it in there. And I was like, you know what? The picture is better than my Arukas Hamita. There's no reason for me to start schlepping Arukas Hamita. Here it is. Let me show you what Arukas Hamita is. I'm cheating a little bit because this is the end of the sugya. And if you see this picture, you're not going to understand the whole sugya. But you can understand why we had some of these going onto the moving truck, right? These are the heads of the bed. Arukas Hamita. So the Gemara says like this. If you have these shpudim, and he put in between them schach, hamakor sukaziv shpudim oy barukas hamita. Im yesh revach beineim kemoison. So let's say we have whatever tfachim, the 4 tfachim of arukas hamita or shpudim, and then you have 4 tfachim of schach ksheira. Hachoited begadish, the famous choited begadish. Let's see if we can come up with a picture here. Here it is. Why not? We have the picture, we might as well show it. You have a haystack. And you go ahead and you dig out, you make a void, create a void in the haystack that's the size of a sukkah, at least 7 by 7 by 10 tefachim high. It's possible. Why is it possible? Because the schach was already there in a psul before you even started having a sukkah. You created the sukkah after the schach was there. That is possible because the Torah says sukkah tasa. You have to make a sukkah. You have to make the schach when it's still kosher. Otherwise, it's possible. Says the Gemara, Lema tehevi tiyufta de Ravuna. In Hilchas Shabbos, we have a Ravuna bereder of Yeshua the Itmar parutz ka'emed. Here's a beautiful picture of a wall. And the wall is exactly 3 tfachim. Each plank is 3, it could be more, but at least 3 tfachim. Why? Because if it's less than 3 tfachim, and the gap between it is less than 3 tfachim, then we say, lavud, and it's closed. This will be closed, l'chatchila. The brisker guy made a sukkah like this, that was 3 by 3, and a cat walked in and goes, I don't understand how a cat walked in here, I have lavud. It doesn't really work physically, it works halachically, but halachically it's completely closed. So that's why we're talking about that the planks of wood are a little bit more, or 3 exact. Kids are more than 3. Call it more than 3 so we understand it. 3 or more. And the gaps are 3 or more, exactly the size of the planks of wood. So we don't have lavud. So it's 50% covered or closed, 50% gaping hole. What's the halacha? According to Rabbi Yeshua, Rav Papa Mutar. Rav Papa says this is a place that I can carry on Shabbos. Rav Yeshua Amar Asur. So the Gemara wants to say that if on Hilchas Shabbos it's not considered a wall, because parutz ka'imed is like parutz. So over here, when I have 50% metal and 50% perfect kosher schach, it should be like metal. It should be puzzle. If 50% ear and 50% wood is considered ear, so 50% metal and 50% wood should be considered metal. And therefore, we don't have schach, but the Mishnah says that it's fine. 50-50 is good enough schach. Why? Raya, it's not like Rav Huna Berei, the Rav Yeshua. Says the Gemara, not true. Maybe the pshat is my kamoison bin nichnas v'yotzei. Kamoison doesn't mean literally 50-50. It looks 50-50 maybe, but in order for me to get my schach in there comfortably, it has to be 51% open, ear. Why? Because how am I going to get my schach in? How can I put a piece of schach that's 10 inches wide in a void that's 10 inches wide? It doesn't fit, right? You're a mechanic. Could you fit a part in a car if it's the exact same? It has to be slightly more, right? A mashu more? Okay, so it's 51% air and 49% metal. That's the pshat. My kamaison, yes, the piece of schach might be the same size as the metal. It's the same size as the 49%, but the hole is larger. And Menmeleh, I have less metal at the end of the day than I have schach. The schach is going to be considered more. As the Gemara, vo'ev shalat samtzim. So the Gemara, throughout Shas we have this idea. Ev shalat samtzim, if shalat samtzim, could you be exact? Ask the Gemara, you could be exact. Very good, says the Gemara. Yes, you could be exact. Let's say we say you could be exact. There's such a thing as being 50-50 to the millionth of an inch. Okay. But Omer Rabbi Madif. At the end of the day, that's not what we're talking about. We have to be realistic here. We're talking about a case where it's not exact, and he wanted to be able to put the schach in and out, take it in and out. And Menmeleh, it's a little bit more. Rav Omar, afilu teimel b'shem madif. No. We're talking about exact. He was mamish exact. With lasers, he measured. Everything is exactly the same amount. The puzzle and the kosher. But over here, we're talking about that the kosher is more than the puzzle, even though the hole between the metal is the same size as the metal, exactly the same size. Why is the schach more? Because im hayu nesunim shesi noisem erev noisem shesi. So here's a picture. Let's see if we have a better one that's more. Okay. How do I hear that? I don't know. Okay. Somebody's not muted. Okay. Oh, they have to mute themselves because there's no nobody's in charge. Gary's sleeping now. Okay. Look what's going on here. He wanted to put his schach sideways. These are little slats that are going, let's say this is north-south. He wants to do east-west. He wants to put the slats east-west. But they have to, they're hanging, they're positioned on top of the metal. What's going on here? You have metal 10 inches, a gap 10 inches, metal 10 inches, a gap 10 inches. So the gaps in the metal are identical. But the schach is going sideways and is going from metal to metal. And in order for it to sit on the metal, the schach has to be longer than the gap. No? It's sitting on the metal, but there's more schach, more kosher schach than the metal. If we're taking an aerial view of the sukkah before we put the schach on, so you have identical amounts of air as you have metal. It's 50-50. But then you want to put your schach here. Let's say this is metal and this is metal, and this is your schach. So you're going to put your schach like this on top of the metals. But it has to overlap the metal. So now your kosher schach, the sun is hitting your schach first before it hits the metal. Your sukkah has more kosher schach than metal. That's what Rav is saying. Sponsored. We just turned to Daf Yomi, sponsored by the MDY Tehillim group for all those who need shidduchim, refuahs, those in the accident, and the two people that are from the mishpacha that they said need a refuah and yeshuas. Please join tehillim.8mindaf.com. Says the Gemara. Let's see it inside. Maybe the gap is the same exact as the metal. But the problem is, not the problem. The reason why we have more kosher schach than the air is because if the metal was laying in a shesi direction, nois than erev, he's putting the schach in an erev direction, and therefore it's on top of the metal, so it has to be more than the metal. Erev, and if the metal is in an erev direction, nois than shesi. Okay. Oy barukos hamita. Or he put the feet of the bed on top of his sukkah. Says the Gemara, perhaps this is a raya to Rav Ami. The what? Domer Rav Ami bar Taviyumi. Succah bebavloi kelim psula. Kelim means what? You guys remember what kelim means? Clothing. If you have clothing's makabel tumah. But if you have pieces of clothing that are less than 3 fingers by 3 fingers, that's shmatas that are nothing. So what happens to the tumah? It dissipates. So what happens if you take these little pieces of clothing like this size and you put them on top of the sukkah? Psula. Why? Because since it was makabel tumah beforehand, so it continues to be makabel tumah. It's not good for sukkah anymore. So now you have a bed. You have a bed. When it's a full bed, it's makabel tumah. It's makabel tumah's medras, right? A couch. We spoke about this a number of times. Couches bisman hazeh. They're all tamei, medras. You have people that are tamei that sit on them, boom, becomes tamei. So bed is makabel tumah. But now we're not talking about a bed. We are talking about parts of a bed. Parts of a bed should be just like bavloi kelim. Parts of a beged. 3 by 3 pieces, less than 3 by 3. So Mela, it's a great raya to Rabbi Taviyumi. Says the Gemara, no, not a good raya. I could be doicha you. Kido Amar Rav Chanan Amar Rebbe ba'aruka ushtei kra'ayim. It's talking about a piece of the bed and 2 of its legs together, or b'ktsaro ushtei kra'ayim. So it's either the aruka. Aruka means the length of the bed, and 2 feet. So that's already a kli. The Gemara understands that's a kli. We thought we're talking about a broken piece of bed, just this part, whatever. Or here's the ktsara, if you want to see what a ktsara looks like. This guy, or this guy. It's parts of the bed. North, south, east, west, whatever it is. Parts of the bed. So these parts of the bed are kelim. He said somewhere else that we're talking about aruku shtei krayim, b'ksar shtei krayim. Elchanan, so too in our sugya, in our Mishnah, that he used schach. What kind of schach did he use? He used ba'aruku shtei krayim. He took the bed that's a long piece of wood and has 2 legs attached to it, or b'ksar shtei krayim, or the short part of the bed and it's 2 legs. Hey, and where do we see this? Oh, this is not like in the Mishnah. Top of the Zayin Amud Aleph. Mamish a nes. I'm telling you it's a nes. Tomorrow it's going to be a different day. Going to be kemat Kemat moved in. Kemat unjet lagged. Mita tmeya, mita mitamis chavila. Chavila means whole. So a bed that's completely whole, a whole bed, comes tamei. Umitaheres chavila. I thought this is so interesting. In those days, if your bed became tamei and you were makbid on tumah, you know what you do? You take the bed to the mikvah in a pickup truck, and you dunk the bed in a mikvah. You push it, put the entire bed in a mikvah. Take your couch, put it in a mikvah. Umitaheres chavila. You cannot break it up into pieces. You hear this? You can't break it up. The only way the tumah comes out of your bed is if it's a bed, as a whole bed, as it's mikabel tumah. But if you break it up into pieces, those pieces don't have tumah anymore. And then when you put it back together, then they do have tumah. So you can't go to the mikveh with broken parts. You have to take the whole bed. I hope that the door to the mikveh is wide enough, and you just bring it right in. Huh? Lake Michigan. Yeah. Let's not talk about the time I tried to dunk in Lake Michigan. That's a different story. By the way, that happens to be people's favorite story. I'm not sure why. It was voted top story. Okay. People are just perverted, whatever. Sorry. I love the lashon. Ivarim. Limbs. It becomes tamei when it's limbs, and you can bring it to the mikveh in limbs. In other words, in parts. So, if that's the case, if you hold that it becomes tamei in parts, so then it would be also to use the schach. If it doesn't become tamei in parts, then it's mutter to use the schach. So what's these Ivarim, my niu, Elchanan and Rebbe? That's what we were saying. Aruku shtei kurayim, tzaru shtei kurayim. It's either a serious part of the bed, not just a piece. It has a long piece of wood attached to it, are two legs, or ktsara, the same thing, just shorter, shtei kurayim. L'may chazia. And what could you do with two pieces of wood, or a long piece of wood and two legs? What can you possibly do with it? Says the Gemara, look right over here. L'mismechinu aguda. You take that one piece, you put it, and you lean it up against the wall somehow. Here, you see, sticking out this way, it's leaning on the wall. Ulemesav alayu, or to sit on it. Someone take that word out. Umishda ashle, and you can rope it up, going to the wall with ropes side to side. You have a nice normal bed. So with aruka amita or ktsara amita, I can make a real bed. Therefore, it's considered a kli, and therefore it's mikabel tumah, and therefore I could also be metired in the mikvah, and therefore what? Succah, I cannot use it as schach. Have a wonderful day. Shkoyach.